Alright, so this is the pre-season episode for Season 5 of my F1 22 Driver Career Mode. If you've missed any of the stories so far, I recommend you go and check that out. I think there's still a link to the playlist in the description below. But, over the winter, there's been an issue. Porsche and McLaren have fallen out, and Porsche aren't going to be supplying for McLaren for Season 5. The only team they're going to be supplying, Williams.
They're happy to enter into
So,
negotiations.
we still have a contract with Porsche, which we need to see out. So, we are going to be driving for Williams for the first part of this season. With not the best contract cost, but Porsche paid our bonus that McLaren refused to do so for winning the championship. So, yes, it's going to be a very different season. We've been at the front for the previous two seasons in Red Bull and McLaren. We're now going to be playing a bit of catch up, although there has been a regulation change, and other teams will be playing catch up there. Looking at the calendar, there's been a couple of changes. Bahrain no longer on the calendar, so the season opener will be at Jeddah. That episode will be out on Monday, and then Australia is still there. The second race of the season. That possibly what could be 2024. It's been rumoured for 2024 could be the opening two rounds. Imola round 3, Baku at number 4, and I've got Canada, Britain, Austria. France returns, replacing Hungary as 7th and 8th, and then also returning are Mexico, Singapore in place of Japan and Hungary. Now, R&D wise, there's a slight issue with this car because the HQs, apart from the durability side, are not Spec 3, but we have got a lot of R&D points that we are going to upgrade a lot of the durability and max that, and hopefully that will trigger the game to build the HQ. Otherwise, well, we'll be saying goodbye to Porsche. Time though to reveal this year's car. Oh yes, I said last season that I loved what I designed here with the Williams Porsche livery, and to be able to drive it, we've obviously adapted because there's been some changes in sorts of sponsors, but the design from last year, the paint job from last year, it looks fantastic. For me, in my opinion, it looks very good, considering obviously there are mod limitations, but still it looks very good for me. And those of you who watched to the end of the previous episode will have got a teaser to who my teammate was. He's an Australian. Now obviously Daniel Ricciardo retired at the end of last season, and therefore it can't be him, so therefore it has to be the other Australian. Yes, our teammate is our old teammate. Oscar Piastri will be alongside us in the Williams. The team he rejected in real life has joined after being fired from McLaren in our career mode. You know, a little bit of justice, but we'll see what this car can do. You know, it's hopefully going to be a short-term project to get this car into the midfield and onto the top. McLaren, now, obviously they had 2 driver vacancies. The first one being filled by Lando Norris. Norris, despite not Alpine having a stronger end to the season, didn't think Alpine had what it takes to survive the regulation change and decided to change. Especially the fact that McLaren have a new engine supplier. Yes, Honda are back in Formula 1, and more importantly, Honda are back with McLaren for a 3rd time as well. Previously rumoured, this was a possibility in real life before the latest Red Bull rumours have come out. Yes, obviously Honda was a driving force for Norris choosing to leave Alpine to be able to work with a manufacturer that he believed in, the team that he knows, and bring them back to greatness. And he'll be partnered, of course, by a Japanese driver, because Honda have brought in one of their former juniors, Yuki Tsunoda, after his departure from Williams. Obviously, this team has had a lot of turmoil over the winter, but now they're looking to strive forward, build back, and hopefully they can challenge for another championship later down the line. Red Bull have also a new engine. As rumoured, they were looking to depart the woeful Aston Martin engine, something they felt that kept them back from winning races in the first part of the season. And they've partnered with Ford. Ford, of course, joining them in real life, and now they're joining them in this career mode with a very striking lighter blue livery and also white around the Red Bull as well. Obviously, they've kept their very strong lineup of Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc. Verstappen struggled in the first part of the season, but then was the better driver for Red Bull in the second half of the season. Together, Red Bull are hoping that both of them have what it takes to be able to work together and deliver Red Bull a first Constructors' Championship since Season 3. Now, whether or not, obviously, Ford's engine, that's a bit of an unknown. The initial tests from pre-season suggest it should be at least a lot better than the Aston Martin engine from Season 4. Ferrari, not a lot's changed for Ferrari. They're obviously disappointed with how it ended, considering that Sainz was such a force during the early part of the season, especially after Piastri got fired. You know, he was the main opposition. And the fact they lost out second place in the Drivers' Championship was a little bit disappointing for both Sainz and Ferrari. But they're looking hopefully to improve for Season 5 as well. Not a lot has changed with the team. They're still majorly sponsored by Santander as their title sponsor, so for them it's just about another season. Can they be the main aim is to try and beat Red Bull and be a lot closer to the championship title, because they were nowhere near either championship in the end after a disappointing finish. Now, they still got Sebastian Vettel alongside. Vettel hasn't done much since his return to Ferrari, and there were questions of whether Vettel should retire, but Sebastian says he's determined to rebuild himself and rebuild his career at the Scuderia and try and deliver as either the supporting role or a world championship for the Italian outfit. Mercedes were woeful in Season 4. They finished 5th in the Constructors, and yet they still got the same lineup of Lewis Hamilton and George Russell. Now, obviously, this has been a little bit different in the off-season, because unlike the previous seasons, Mercedes have retained their title sponsor of Lufthansa as well, and they've even managed to steal sponsors from Alpine like Accor as well. Obviously, this is a building, and possibly another building year for Mercedes. They want to try and get both Hamilton and Russell further up the grid, try and challenge for the odd podium. That is realistically Mercedes' aim for season 5, and then hopefully, you know, they continue that momentum and try and push for race wins in Season 6. With the sponsors and stability to the team, the future can only be better than what it was in Season 4 for the German outfit. And that brings me on to Alpine, who've had a very troubled winter despite the progress they've made R&D, but obviously it's off track and away from the factory where the troubles have happened. The first wanted to try and keep Lando Norris. Obviously they failed to do that, so obviously Ocon disappointed. They were looking to replace Ocon with Alex Albon, which they did sign Alex Albon, but then with Norris departing, they re-signed Ocon for another season. So they got a very interesting lineup of Ocon and Albon, but they have lost quite a few sponsors, just like in real life. Their sponsors have decided that the team doesn't have what it takes to be able to build, and there's questions from the Renault board whether that Laurent Rossi is the right person to take that team forward, and whether Renault should take that team back to try and build a more successful future. But for Albon and Ocon, with the team with the fastest car, and I'll come back to the R&D chart at the end of the episode, but the team with the fastest car, surely they should be able to push for race wins. Surely but only time will see whether they can do or not. Now, Red Bull's second team, obviously AlphaTauri are still here, and they've of course adopted the parents' team's engine supplier Ford. But all is not well at AlphaTauri either. Obviously, there are rumours flying about that AlphaTauri could be sold as well in the near future, and already Red Bull are looking to try and move any prominent staff over to the Red Bull factory in the UK, away from Faenza in Italy. Obviously, this team was fast in a straight line, as they have been since season 2, and they even pushed for some podiums at times. But whether or not they have that pace to be able to maintain against the top 5 teams is yet to be seen. Obviously, it depends on the output of the Ford engine, whether or not it marries up with the car's aerodynamic straight line speed. Now, things have changed at Aston Martin over the winter too. Their new HQs have finally opened, and it looks like they've made a huge step forward with the car over the winter. Whether or not that big step forward has been able to transfer into the races is yet to be seen. But with some new sponsors and a new title sponsor in the form of British Airways, as well as other prominent new sponsors, this could be a new era for Aston Martin. This is the promise that Valtteri Bottas was given when he tried to leave at the end of season 3, that the car would become good. Bottas has decided to stay for another season, but whether or not his faith dwindles in the team depends on how fast they are out on track. He's joined again by Lance Stroll. Neither of them have actually performed very well on track, considering the fact the team scored only a handful of points throughout season 4, but a regulation change may have brought Aston Martin a bit of luck, and they're hoping that they can be a lot closer to the midfield than they were in season 4. Now, Alfa Romeo, I can't lie, they've not scored any points. They've had bad luck after bad luck after bad luck when they try and score some points. It's just not working for the Swiss Italian outfit, and to be honest, neither is their lineup, but they've retained their lineup because nobody is really very interested in partnering. As well, Ferrari is still backing Robert Schwartzman. Remember, Ferrari were the ones that dug the team out of trouble after all their sponsors left over the decision to retain their lineup. Now, obviously, they've still got the same lineup from season 4, as I just mentioned, of Zhou Guanyu and Robert Schwartzman. It's not a very inspiring lineup, but hopefully Alfa Romeo are hoping that they can try and push forwards if they get the money and the resources. They've got some new sponsors. UBS is a new title sponsor for them. Now they're hoping to secure the multi-year deals. Now they're hoping they can push forwards and gain a lot of try and reduce that gap where they were the slowest on track at times throughout season 4. And the final team, Haas finished 7th in the end, which was enough to convince Audi that they should enter F1 alongside Haas as well. So Haas are powered by Audi for this season. This is going to be their first season, so they have, for the time being, retained their lineup of Schumacher and Latifi. Schumacher, of course, scored almost all of the points for Haas throughout season 4, though Latifi did score a few, and he has been improving in recent years. Whether or not, though, he's going to be there long term, considering the fact Audi are looking for possibly a long term prospect to partner Schumacher and try and boost this car further up the grid, especially the fact now that Audi are there, they need the Latifi money less and less with the calibre of sponsors that team has been able to attract, like Bosch and Audi as well. More sponsors surely will come as long as the team performs well on track. I did want to make this, by the way, a chromed livery, but the Haas just doesn't want to. There's no option to make a chromed Haas livery in the F122. I've tried, believe it or not, to make this a chrome livery, but it doesn't want to work. So they retain the grey silver look from season 4. So R&D wise, Alpine and AlphaTauri are top, from Ferrari, Mercedes, and Red Bull. All five of those are very close together. So it might be track by track Pacific. You never know. And then Alfa Romeo, McLaren have dive bombed with all the turmoil of trying to fit the Honda engine in last minute. Williams, we've made progress, but we're joint with McLaren, but McLaren have got the advantage. They've got Spec 3 HQ facilities, we don't, and that could even be if we don't upgrade by half term, we could look for a mid-season move away from the team. That's if we don't see any progress that being made on the R&D front, because we purchased all of the durability upgrades now. It's we've got enough to be able to max this car out as long as the team invests in their facilities, which is a little bit annoying that the game works like that, but nevertheless, I'm hoping that it'll trigger the game to start upgrading at least one or even more of the facilities. We've got enough R&D points to be able to purchase all of the upgrades as soon as the HQ facilities upgraded as well. But yeah, let me know which livery is your favourite in the comments below. As I previously said, I designed all 10 of the liveries for this series as well. Until the next video then, I'll see you next time. Take care, thanks so much for watching, enjoy your day, and goodbye.